When we step into the working world, a lot of times we have insufficient data, but yet we have to make very critical decisions. So how do we do that? We need to be able to navigate ambiguity. So we train ourselves over time to make better judgments along the way. I don't think there's ever a time where I can say that I have 100% accuracy or perfect judgment. So again, it goes into ability to fail fast, but fail forward. And then once I understand that, okay, hey, maybe when I've done this, it's actually not the most optimal. So what can I learn from it? It's really about asking oneself, how can I do this better? So how do we be excellent? How do we be creative? How do we be tasteful? How do we exercise good judgment? It's about the being versus just doing.
Hey everyone, good day. Welcome to another episode of Wise and Shine. This is Alex Low. I am going solo today. And this year, 2026, this is actually my first episode for 2026. I have rebranded and I'm calling myself your Nest to Next Coach. So what exactly does this mean? I support people in life transitions, specifically in the areas of spiritual, emotional, and financial well-being. Right? And today's episode, we have a career coach with us, and she will be sharing with us a little bit more about creativity, judgment, as well as taste. She's going to share with us how she walks her coaches through this, and she has a lot, right? Many years of experience in the luxury industry as well as in the training and education industry. So without much further ado, Priscilla, please introduce yourself to our audience.
Hi everyone, my name is Priscilla. I'm so delighted to be here today. I'm a career coach and luxury mindset advocate. I empower creatives and professionals to own their own unique identity, harness their innate value so that they step out in courage, clarity and confidence of the true inner luxury.
Thank you, Priscilla. And we are both sama-sama, right? You coach, I also coach, right? So a lot of things or insights that we can share and hopefully discuss today.
Yes, absolutely.
Let's start with the first skill set, which is creativity. Growing up, I never thought or felt myself as creative, right? When I had art class in primary school, I didn't know how to draw, I didn't know how to color. And the fact that I was colorblind, and I still am colorblind, meant that there was a lot of things that I could not do as well as others. So what to you is the definition of creative? And maybe can creativity be trained, or is it something that is you're already born and bred with?
I think creativity to me, it's just the ability to think of different solutions in perhaps even in unconventional ways. Looking at problems, situations at different angles, approaching things in many different angles or perspectives, even the ability to reframe. So like you mentioned, you thought, and I too thought that compared to my peers who are amazing at drawing, at decorating, so I think that, I'm not creative. So we self-label ourselves that we aren't creative. So we just stop short of furthering, say, creative pursuits. However, when the time comes, and you would have recognized that even in our growing up years, we learn from others. We learn from conversations, from looking at magazines, from doing research online, even through our hobbies in communities. We learn and pick up things even subconsciously. And so when the time comes, when the occasion calls for it, we realize that actually, hey, we do have an eye for it. And the more we do, the more we explore and experiment. We begin to see that, hey, actually, creativity is not something that's only confined to certain individuals. We can all learn and grow in it. And again, that goes back also to what I believe in is luxury mindset, which is innately, harnessing that innate value.
If a coachee comes to you, how do you identify whether this person is creative or not before you decide on what kind of approach you would have towards helping this person grow?
What I believe in is that every individual, innately, they are resourceful, they are whole, and they are creative. So it's just how maximized is their creativity. So because again, to me, creativity is not necessarily just the expression of artistic skills, like, designing or drawing. But creativity is the ability to look at situations, at events, at challenges in multiple different ways or aspects. And also the ability to reframe. So with that said, creativity is innate to everyone because we can learn reframing. We can learn how do we look at situations in different perspectives.
And you've been in the luxury industry a couple of years as well before you came out to do coaching. How, and in the luxury space, right, standards are extremely high. How does creativity in the luxury industry or luxury space differ from the creativity that other corporates could potentially be looking for?
I would say that luxury, in the luxury industry, standards are very high. So it is literally working on very excellent standards. We are very rigorous about attention to details, being very precise. That can be even to the smallest detail, like, okay, maybe a font size, the color variation, the kind of words, maybe in the way we storytell. So these are really high standards that we endeavor to continue maintaining. That's also the reason why in luxury, or where I was previously working at, there is constant training all year long. I think every single month, right, I see different divisions rolling out different training programs.
And is the training more of like continuous upskilling because of new things that are happening around, or is it purely just a case of new employees coming in, therefore they need to be trained in that same program, right, as their colleagues who might already have attended the same course?
I would say it's both. We have refresher programs all the time as well because, again, attrition happens, people leave, new people join. And so, yes, we have refresher programs. We do also have new programs that come in when we discover that, okay, there's this particular need we really need to address. As our target market or the clients' tastes evolve over time, what new skills do we want or new capabilities do we want our employees to take on? So we design new workshops, new programs according to the needs that evolves over time.
And how different would it be in terms of the questions that you would ask a luxury brand or company candidate when it comes to creativity? Because you talked about attention to detail, right? So how do you identify that a person has that attention to detail in terms of that creativity and the work that they need to do?
One of the questions that I would typically ask a candidate is, what has been the most challenging situation you have helped to solve previously? So first of all, I would want to understand how complex is that problem or that issue that they bring up. If they are just bring across something that was pretty minor, then you also know that their level of looking at things from different angles, their ways of reframing or their creativity could be quite different from someone who is able to share a very complex issue. Maybe it was over several months. How did they meet a certain need? So yes, that's always one of the question I will ask. What has been the most difficult situation you have helped to solve? So the key is actually to share a so-called problem or challenge that you have successfully overcome. And for, say, fresh graduates, so you may not necessarily have a lot of career challenges yet. However, what you could share is perhaps in school or during internship, even part-time roles, have you encountered a difficult customer? Have you encountered a difficult boss, a challenging teammate? How then did you resolve that conflict? How then did you resolve that differences in opinion? So again, you can always reference things that happen in school, the project that is being done, or maybe tight deadlines, or maybe uncooperative colleagues. So there are actually several situations. It's just whether they actually give it that thought or not.
And the solution to these challenges could potentially also be examples or areas where you can tease out the creativity.
Exactly.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And what about judgment then when it comes to your understanding of a potential candidate or even a coachee? Can you train judgment? Is judgment something that is you're born in terms of that decision-making process, in terms of knowing right from wrong? How do you find that balance?
So for judgment, I would say that to me, judgment is really just essentially discernment.
Right.
Like you said, the ability to differentiate what would be optimal and what would be not optimal. So sometimes not necessarily maybe good or bad, but optimal versus not so optimal. And judgment, again, we can learn judgment through practice, through making mistakes. through exploring and experimenting, which we do very naturally as children growing up. We just try out new things. Our parents say, don't touch the hot stove. And then we go touch it and then we learn. And then there's a judgment call, right? Okay, I'm no longer going to go near the stove, right? And then when we grow up, it's the same thing. When we step into the working world, a lot of times we have insufficient data, but yet we have to make very critical decisions. So how do we do that? We need to be able to navigate ambiguity. So we train ourselves over time to make better judgments along the way. I don't think there's ever a time where I can say that I have 100% accuracy or perfect judgment. So again, it goes into the more I think, it's the ability to fail fast, but fail forward. And then once I understand, okay, hey, maybe when I've done this, it's actually not the most optimal. So what can I learn from it? It's really about asking oneself, how can I do this better?
So with judgment, I guess to train judgment, an individual would need to have gone through a certain amount of failure or not so good decisions that they've made, and there must be some form of reflection, right? If not, then they would not be able to do better the next time. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, I would say that at least that's what I believe in, right? So I also always tell my candidates or my coaches that there's no such thing as failure in life. Sure, yes, there is that word in the dictionary. However, inherently, failure, it brings to mind very negative connotations. So I'm a failure. I didn't succeed at this. Maybe I didn't do well for the interview. I didn't land the desired job. What I tell my interviewees or my coaches is that every opportunity, every incident happens for a reason. And what we can do is to learn from it. So what can I learn from it? So if I've prepared the best I know how, I go in with all the research I've done. I go into the interview, did my best. However, I didn't get selected. I didn't get shortlisted. Someone else was picked. Do I see myself as a failure? I see it as a learning opportunity. And that would be a rehearsal, a dry run for the next interview, because now I know maybe, okay, I may need to tweak or refine my answers in a certain way. Okay, so maybe hiring managers may tend to ask a question like this. How do I better prepare for it in the next round? So I think every interaction, every situation allows us opportunity to learn. And so instead of seeing it as failure, the reframing comes in and say it's a learning opportunity.
Right. And this is very related to what you described yourself as earlier as a luxury mindset coach, right? Tell us a little bit more about that luxury mindset coaching and how is this relevant to creativity, judgment, and the last point which we come to in a bit is also taste.
So luxury mindset is what I believe in very strongly as owning our own unique identity and recognizing that our self-worth is indeed unconditional, meaning it is regardless of whether we receive external validation or not. Sure, growing up, I think just inherently being Asian, being Chinese, we look to maybe role models, we look up to parents, authority figures to get a sense of whether are we doing something right or wrong. But how does that help us to be better? Because if, let's say, we get a negative feedback, does it mean that we are any less than the person that we already are? Right? So we are born with a very unique set of gifts, strengths, talents and abilities. It's really just uniquely you. Your personality is as such. So what I do is, I just help the individual to uncover their strengths and to recognize what's already uniquely them. Because the thing about luxury is that we talk a lot about precision to details, to excellence, to holding ourselves to very high standards of understanding what their innate value is. Because luxury, it's all about value, it's about exclusivity. But how do we then apply that internally to oneself? So all of us, there's only one of us. We are in fact priceless. So when we talk about value, there's no one else that's like you. So there's only one Alex Low.
Right.
Yes, you might have someone else with the exact same name, maybe even the same height, but with the same personality, with the same strengths, same gifts, same talents, same experiences. Absolutely not. Not even if you have a twin brother. So the thing is that even your quirks or your idiosyncrasies, your experiences that may not have been the most positive or have shaped you to be the person that you are now, in order for you to support the people whom you are right now serving.
Right. Okay, so if I may rephrase that, is that the luxury mindset is identifying your own value, which is priceless at its highest, and that value is about excellence, it's about precision, it's about your unique strengths as well as talents and abilities, right? So it's helping people to hone that. That's what the luxury mindset essentially is.
Really about uncovering our own innate value, because we have our own values, we have our own strengths. So a lot of times we could be blinded to that because of, say, external critique. Growing up with a lot of criticisms and self-limiting beliefs again. So working with an individual to uncover all of that. Innately, when you are just you, what are you the most comfortable doing? And when you are at your happiest, what can you already be achieving? So with that, it's really about just understanding that you are unique, you are a masterpiece already, you are priceless because there's no one else like you, and you can add value and make a significant difference to your circle of influence. We all have our circle of influence. It can be your family, it can be your community, it can be your workplace.
Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
Okay, thank you for explaining luxury mindset. We come to the last skill set, which is taste. I really see taste as something as personality, character driven. Can that actually be trained? What is your definition of taste when it comes to this creativity, judgment, as well as taste, when you put these three things together?
So taste to me is essentially an elevated preference. So how do we elevate anything that we are doing? You know, the work that we are doing. Like I said, yes, it is certainly related very much to personality, to what has been our own experiences, also to what we have been continually immersing ourselves in. So the very environment that we are brought up in, or that we consciously choose to continue learning from. Yeah, so that's where taste comes from. So for example, if we want the taste of, say, a designer, we look a lot at, say, design magazines, design websites. So is that the taste? What do we define as something that is aesthetically tasteful? So we must first ourselves have our own definition of taste. So for me, it's an elevated preference and way of doing things. And that could very much be also subject to the things that we have gone through. Right. Yeah, and of course our personality.
Right. Yeah, I think for me, it's easier to identify something as distasteful because it's an eyesore. Well, it doesn't look right. But if you were to ask me to, okay, it doesn't look right, then what do you think would look best? I would not be able to put my finger on it. But someone with the right creativity, judgment, and taste would be able to identify and put a needle to the point on what exactly needs to be done. Am I right to say that?
Well, I would then maybe, put a question across as, what do you define as right? Yeah, because early on you said someone with the right judgment, creativity, and taste. So how would you define right in this case?
You know, sometimes, let's say there is a stylist, right? A photographer on set, and, they put the props together, and then they put the model here, model there, and then they say, yeah, something's not right. And then everyone tries to tinker and say, oh, we should do that, and still not wrong. And then somebody comes along, maybe some super senior stylist will come along the way and say, okay, just move this here, move the feather here, and okay, then it's perfect. So then you have that creativity, judgment, and taste, which is right, which nobody really knows until they see it.
Sure. Yes, I would say that, of course, that true. And that's why, a lot of luxury brands, they work with stylists, right? I think this again goes back to, they have a certain framework. They have certain prerequisites that they need to work around. So it cannot be free flow or free play in that sense. So when we go back to luxury, they have their brand DNA, they have regional, even global guidelines. what you can't do and what you can do. So it's about adapting accordingly within the confines and the guidelines or the guardrails that has been given. So that would go to taste. But okay, so for example, if we just step outside, certain places there might be graffiti. So to someone who prefer a very maybe minimalist kind of a taste, you might find like, hey, graffiti, that's so distasteful. But it just looks like people coming together, spraying certain paint. However, if you would ask, say, a graffiti artist, that could be beautiful, artistic, visually, aesthetically pleasant. Yeah. So again, it goes back to what exactly, are we working around and what taste means to the individual.
Oh, but I like that response because specific to Wise and Shine, which is for PMETs who are looking for a job change, trying to be hired for their first job, this is very relevant because the taste part for this really is what are the guidelines or frameworks that your potential employer would be looking for when it comes to taste, right? So if let's say you are going to be going for a job with a luxury brand, you need to know the brand.
Exactly.
You must know the brand.
Absolutely must.
You must know what the branding guidelines are, the color, the font, the size, the type of people, and even seasonal, what is trending and what used to be trending, right? So that's important to know because then that would help to set the right taste together with the creativity and judgment for whatever questions that might come during the interview.
Yes. So I would always prep the candidates to do your own research beforehand. Absolute must. Please visit their website, social media, look on LinkedIn, look on Instagram, what's articles that are written about the company. Also look for any perhaps past events that has happened. So if it's for a luxury brand, what are the past shows? Some of the shows, some of the past campaigns that has launched. So reference that, and talk about it in the interview. That also shows interest, motivation for a role. I think it's knowing and internalizing also the vision, the purpose of the brand and being able to showcase how does that align with your own vision, with your own mission in life. I mean, out of so many brands, out of so many companies out there, why would I want to apply specifically for your company? Because, your brand, maybe it's about meeting a need of this. And so is mine. So is my purpose in life. So it's what I strongly believe in. So if you can align your purpose statement, if you can align your mission in life to what the brand vision is, I think that can be very powerful. Of course, you need to internalize it.
Right. Thank you. That's very, very helpful. Yeah, I'd like to come back on the point on creativity, right, Priscilla? Employers like to hire people who are creative, have good judgment and taste. But there's also one school of thought where they say, oh, if I hire someone that's too creative, right, this person could potentially be a liability, difficult to manage, and might not be adding as much value to the business or brand as they would like it to, right? Creatives or people who are too creative tend to be poor on timelines, tend to be too perfectionist in what they might want or need, and that could potentially cause tension within the department or within the teams. How will you, as a hiring manager, then decide whether or not this person is too creative such that this person could potentially be a liability?
I would say that let's look at the individual holistically. What is the skill sets, experiences that they have that would be helpful and beneficial to the team? What gap are we trying to plug here? What capability is missing now? So is there a very specific skill set that we need? So for example, when we're in luxury, we usually want to hire like visual merchandisers, maybe CRM, people in CRM and marketing. And of course, my hiring managers, they all want people with very excellent standards. Yes. So the thing about
excellent
them is
standards, but cannot be prima donna kind.
Absolutely.
Or can.
Cannot be prima donna.
Okay.
Cannot. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because let's not go down that line because exactly. That's a that's absolutely a liability. No one likes being around a prima donna. Yes. But going back to your question, so how much is too much? Again, I would want to understand how much is too much. If this individual has a very specific skill set that is needed by the team, like design skills, for very specific, okay, maybe for travel retail only, I need to design for travel retail, say a pop-up booth. And not many people out there, perhaps, if they have that skill set. So then I'll look at the individual. If, like you said, we could ask that certain questions in interviews. How do they work on very tight timelines? If, let's say, we want to understand how do they work within confines or constraints that are given. So it's about also asking the right questions and seeing how they respond to it. Do they, typically, are they open to working with people who are non-creative? So I might ask a question like, when there are situations at work and, opinions differ, how do you respectfully resolve a situation if someone doesn't see eye to eye with you? Yeah, how would you resolve a situation like that? And if the person can't give me a straight answer for that and just goes around the bush, again, that's something I need to have a little red flag on, maybe come back to it in another way.
Right.
Can they answer my question or not?
I like that. The questions or during the interview process would then help you to identify. What about for someone who is not in a creative role, wants to be more creative so that potentially this person could open up more opportunity, whether it's in the role that they're already in with the same company or maybe even move up the ranks in another organization. How can a non-creative be more creative?
I would go back to the individual. When he or she is talking about he wanting to be more creative, I want to understand in his mind, what does he mean by wanting to be more creative? Then, of course, we can address that accordingly. So, but just straight up, just understanding that it is a lot about what does he or she think he is lacking right now? So could it be something that he could just potentially upskill? Right. Sign up for a workshop, a 6 months course. Can he do a master's? Yeah. So I really believe that at least in the past few years, I see a lot of people really right now just doing skill stacking. They can be absolutely good at what they are doing, but they are just open to learning, meeting new people, and just learning new skills all the time. Maybe it's the government doing a great work also because we have skills future credits. And so now people are in the habit of always learning. I think that's also our case, right? I mean,
Yes.
I've, even in 2025, I've been signing up for various courses to learn new skills. Yeah, trying out new things.
And off the top of your head, right, because you understand the space, if someone were to want to improve on their creativity, judgment and taste, what specific courses can they explore, whether it's short term, whether it's a bit longer term, so that they can then upskill and be better prepared for that next role that they would want to be applying for?
Well, it depends on the industry that they are in. So that particular course could be a course that is specific to the industry that they want to work on. But if it's general skill sets, I would say communication skills is really important. So how we communicate and articulate our thoughts could very much signal, are we creative? Are we tasteful? Are we possessing good judgment? So definitely, I would recommend a communications course.
Yes,
for sure. I mean, that's we can all improve on that. I have also come to recognize the benefits of learning improv. On the spot. How do you answer or how do you respond to situations that might suddenly change? So again, that goes back into creativity, judgment, and taste, right? So suddenly, if you have a stakeholder who comes in and you thought you had aced the project just the day before, but then the next day, the stakeholder comes in and looks furious because apparently whatever that has been presented got shot down by the board. So now you got to do everything from scratch again. How can you immediately just reframe this? We go back again to reframing and communicate potential new solutions to your stakeholder.
Oh, I like that. That's a new perspective for me or an understanding with the improv part. So, Priscilla, what do you think is lacking in the current corporate landscape where you feel employees could potentially benefit a lot more when it comes to creativity, judgment and taste?
I would say that would certainly be mindset. It might not be a specific skill, but what's inherently important about mindset is it goes back to our fundamental thinking, the way we think about things, the way we perceive things. So it's about even going back to the state of being versus doing. So something that is not just transactional. Like we are taught to, or maybe traditionally rewarded for just being compliant, for just getting the job done, right? Following the rules. But is this really good for creativity, judgment, and taste?
Right.
So how do we be excellent? How do we be creative? How do we be tasteful? How do we exercise good judgment? It's about the being versus just doing. So I think going back to learning more about mindset, ability to reframe, look at things at with various perspectives. Yeah, that's how I would approach this. Like rather than just, or maybe in addition to also learning, yes, building upon, your
technical expert
your
knowledge.
technical expertise training.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Priscilla. Very, very informative session today. So if you're a corporate or an individual looking to reframe or upskill in terms of certain mindset, please look for Priscilla. Where can they find you, Priscilla?
Well, I'm active on LinkedIn, so please look for me there.
Thank you. So that's all the time we have for you today. If you need more mindset information, you could also look for me. I'm Alex, your Nest to Next coach. If you're not already following us on socials, please head on down to our website, www.thefinancialcoconut.com, and leave your email address there so that you'll be informed of future episodes. See you at the next episode. Thank you, Priscilla. Bye-bye.